Are you somebody who is thinking about downsizing or moving into one of those new luxury apartment buildings in that desirable neighborhood? Well, that's what my video is about today. So if you're a Gen Xer or someone who's in their 50s or 60s and hasn't rented in a while, maybe you've seen those new buildings go up. You know the ones, they're in great neighborhoods. They have those cute little coffee shops on the ground floor, very walkable area, close to everything. And they're all updated. They're brand new. They have the laminate hardwood floors. They've got the quartz countertops. These are the kind of buildings that I've been living in for the past few years. And what I'm going to do today is talk about what it's like living in these buildings and that it can be a great option, especially if you're looking to downsize. If you want to be done with the housework, well, you still have to do your basic chores, but you don't have to mow the lawn or shovel the snow or rake the leaves. You don't have to clean the gutters. You know what? Even if the light bulb goes out, frequently they'll have somebody come in and change the light bulb for you too. It's that kind of living style that people are seeking when they move into one of these luxury buildings, which I live in right now. This is my kitchen. You can see my quartz countertops in the background. I love living in these luxury buildings, but there are some pitfalls that you can encounter if you're not ready for it. By the way, my name is Jen. You have found my channel where I talk about all things Generation X, or really whatever I feel like talking about. Welcome. So let's talk about what's the difference between a luxury building versus regular housing. Most of the time it's because the buildings are new, so they get slapped with the luxury title just because they're new. They usually have some great amenities. In the building that I live in right now has an excellent fitness area. It's got a great barbecue, that all the residents can use. Hardly anybody does use it though. They've got community rooms and game areas, and there's just really nice extra things like the tile backsplash that you can see right here, the quartz countertops. Everything is new. It comes with new window coverings, air conditioning, HVAC systems that are brand new. Everything is new. I also like the fact that there's an elevator, so that way I don't have to use my stairs in my house anymore. I just get in the elevator, I come up to my apartment. But there are some definite downsides to moving to one of these communities. And that's what the video is about today. So that way you go in with your eyes open and not just walk in and be starry-eyed by the brand new stainless steel, big windows. I even have a really nice view here. Here, let's see if I can turn this around and show you. I've got a really good view from my apartment too, which that was pretty much the selling point for this apartment and why I moved into it. It's because I just love the view. I've got a fairly extensive experience in this type of housing, from living in these types of buildings for almost a decade now to working as a leasing agent for this exact type of apartment homes for even longer. My career in real estate has spanned a few phases, from new home construction to being a realtor to spending the latter part of my career as a leasing agent for these new luxury apartment buildings during their lease-up phase when they were brand new and still empty. So here's what they'll tell you. Quartz countertops, stainless steel appliances, wood-style flooring, and resort-style amenities. Translation, you're paying for a mortgage-sized rent for a place where you can hear your neighbor sneeze through the wall. I have lived in several of them, and I have worked in others that I didn't actually live in. And these buildings do have a few upsides and they do have a few downsides. Sometimes these brand new buildings, if you're moving in, if you're the first one in your unit, they find out what the builder did wrong after people move in. So you may have an inordinate number of repairs due within the first year that a building has come online and after you've moved in. This happens a lot. This happens a lot in a lot of construction. You've probably heard about it happening in new home construction as well. The reality of life in the United States right now is blue-collar jobs were poo-pooed. Everybody was put into the university system and into white-collar work, and we simply don't have enough people who are skilled to do blue-collar work, like construction, like plumbing, like electrical work, like concrete. There's just not enough people who are trained to do these jobs. Part of that was because of the 2008 crisis, where there just was no reason to go into that business because everything came to a complete stop. So we lost about a decade of workers at that time who would have otherwise been working to build buildings like this. So there is a lack of labor who are available and a lack of skilled labor specifically who know how to do this kind of building. So frequently, these brand new buildings, when they first open up, you're going to discover that there are problems. You will have leaks. You will have problems with the elevators. You will have problems with the appliances, which we learned during COVID that appliance building was not going so great either. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons why moving into a brand new luxury apartment building is going to be a pain in the ass. But let me tell you, there are definitely upsides. And if you know what you're looking at, you can get yourself a great deal in one of these buildings. Right now is a great time to be looking at one of these buildings because we have overbuilt. We've got way too many luxury apartments and not enough people looking to move into them. So if you're an older person, looking to downsize, looking to get out of your house, housing prices are at an all-time high right now. And apartments, although the rents are quite expensive, they are starting to come down. And a lot of these places are offering concessions. You can get anywhere from 1 to 3 months for free. You can get some other things for free as well. Now, one thing I do want to mention here is that renting now is nothing like it was back in the 80s and 90s. This is an a la carte situation. So just like back in the 80s and 90s, you paid for your plane ticket, you got on the plane, and you got everything as part of your plane ride. Your baggage was part of the flight, your movie was part of the flight, the meals were part of the flight, and that's not the case anymore. And this is very much the same situation in rental real estate right now. So when you rent your apartment, your rent pays for the space, and that's it. You still have to pay for your own utilities. Frequently, they will charge you extra for parking. And if they have a designated parking lot, assigned parking, covered parking, or garage parking, all of that is going to cost you in addition to your rent. Water, sewer, garbage, you're going to pay extra for that. Electricity, gas, you're going to pay extra for that. Wi-Fi, internet, cable TV, you're going to pay extra for that. None of that is included. So keep that in mind when looking at the rental prices. On the plus side, these buildings are in really convenient locations. So you might not need to have 2 cars because you happen to be on public transportation or conveniently located to a taxi stand, for instance. So that's on the plus side. Another positive of living in an apartment is low maintenance. No lawns to mow, no snow to shovel, no leaves to rake. If something breaks, you call maintenance and they come and fix it. Theoretically, they'll do it quickly. I always like to double check when I'm looking at a community that I'm considering living in. I want to read the reviews on it. And there's going to be people who are upset because their rent is going up, or they're not getting something they thought they were supposed to get with their rental package. So I pretty much ignore those people who are complaining about the increase in rent, and I look for patterns. So if you hear over and over and over that the trash is not being picked up consistently, for instance, the trash chutes are not working correctly, or if you hear that it's loud and you can hear the neighbors over and over, multiple people complaining that the walls are thin and you can hear right through them, you might want to move on because that place might not have a good enough construction or good enough management to meet the prices that they're asking for. Another positive thing about living in luxury apartment buildings is security. Frequently, they have security cameras. You've got fob entrance or other kinds of security entrance. I have to use my cell phone to enter my building here. I do have a key that I use for my front door, but the building access is through an app on your phone. So it is very secure. There's a lot of the communities, even the older communities now, are going to secure package receiving as well. So you don't have to worry about porch pirates. You know, that's a positive. Frequently, they have security patrols in the evenings, or if you're living in a densely populated area, the entire place might lock down in the evenings, like if you're in a gated community situation. Since I worked in the business, I know which builders are good and which ones are shoddy. This kind of gives me an advantage. you may want to work with a real estate agent in helping you find one of these luxury apartments to move into. When finding an agent to represent you in the lease of one of these apartments, make sure they know about the industry and they know about the buildings specifically. If they can't tell you who the builder was, or who the owner was, or who the developer was, move on. Find another realtor to help you, because that person's not going to be able to help you. I live in Oregon, and here we don't have leasing real estate agents. It's just not a thing. There's no licensing available, and there's no way for a real estate agent to help somebody move into one of these properties. So what I would do if you are in a location like Oregon where leasing real estate agents is just not an option, I would hire a real estate attorney to look over your lease documents before signing it, especially if you're not familiar with it. These days, the lease documents are at least as long as a mortgage, or, it feels like it. The documents that I had to sign for this property that I'm in right now was 87 pages long with 13 pages of addendums. That's a lot to get through. And having worked in the business, a large percentage of people don't read their lease documents. You got to know what you're signing before you move in, or else you're going to end up getting the shaft if you don't know where your budget is going, where the money is going, and what you're going to be charged for. A lot of these new buildings are very high tech, and they require you to have a smartphone to access your unit, the buildings, the amenities, the parking. You want to make sure that you know what you're getting into before you sign that lease document. They also will have the tech of doing the applications and the lease signing online. So if you are not comfortable with an online process for lease signing, I would hire somebody to help you with that, or ask the leasing office if they can recommend somebody who can help you with that. This is not something to just figure, oh, it'll be fine. This is not like ordering something off of Amazon. There is a certain protocol that you have to go through, and different systems don't necessarily work very well with the lease document signing. This is something I encountered over and over again as a leasing agent, where I would actually have to sit down with the prospective tenant and have them do the lease signing on my machine, because they didn't have the right kind of security on their computers or their phones or their tablets or whatever it was they were using to fill out the lease documents. So this is definitely something to keep in mind. Now, these buildings, if they are giving you a concession, say you're getting anywhere from 1 to 3 months of free rent when you move in, generally this is front loaded. They're not going to spread it out over the life of your lease. Usually these 1 to 3 month free rent concessions are going to happen right at the beginning of your rental period, and then your regular rent rate will be due for the remainder of your lease. So if you signed a 12-month lease, 3 months free rent, you're responsible for paying that full 12 months starting in month 4. So I was editing this video and I realized this wasn't completely clear, that if you don't complete your 12-month lease, all 12 months are due at move out. So say you live in the unit for 11 months and you want to move out before your lease is over, you're not going to get your concessions. You're going to have to pay that back. So read your lease. It'll outline this information so that way you know. This is another thing that they do. You're going to have to pay an additional fee every time you pay your rent. So, and this annoys the crap out of me, even as a leasing agent. They offer you convenient online payments with a convenience fee. In Oregon, they have to accept a check for rent. They have to, by law. It's law here. But in most of the US, it is not law, and they can force you to do the online payments with the convenience fee. The convenience fee can run anywhere to something minimal, especially if you set it up for auto pay. It might only be $3 or $4, or it could be as much as, I don't know, $50 or $60, depending on what your rent is and what you're using as your payment method. Look into this. Make sure that you're not stuck with the convenience fee. Then when your lease is up, frequently, in order to recoup that 1 to 3 months rent that they just gave you, they're going to increase your rent rate for the next year. If you don't want to have your rent increased, be prepared to move, because they're probably even going to hike your rent beyond what another unit in your building, identical floor plan, is renting for. Be prepared, because that will happen. If you're moving into a brand new luxury apartment building, frequently the goal of the developer is to build the building, fill it with tenants, and then sell it to investors. So once it gets sold to the investors are going to raise your rent. The new management that purchased the building may not be quite as good as the old management that was running the building. Be prepared for that as well. And then another downside is no sense of community. These buildings have a high turnover rate, and I know it doesn't make any financial sense that they're willing to let you move out versus just keeping the rent the same price, because it doesn't make financial sense for the owners of the building, but they don't care. They need the rent prices to pencil out a certain way in order to maintain their financing. So they will let you move out. They will spend the hundreds or thousands of dollars to get a new tenant into your unit, and or will take the loss on the rent while the unit sits vacant in order to make sure that they can keep those rent rates on the books. So you've got to think about that as well. Your new management may not be as responsive as the old management, and they may not work with negotiation. So this is something that's happening regularly. So how can you protect yourself? Make sure you tour the community thoroughly. Not only do you want to see a model unit and a model floor plan, you want to see the unit you're moving into. If it's not available to be shown because it's currently occupied or it's still under construction, get into that unit at your earliest possible convenience. This is going to be very important in moving forward with your new apartment. Look at the parking lots, look at the parking garage, look at all of the amenities. Is the swimming pool being well kept? Are all the promised amenities available, or is it more of it's coming soon kind of situation? You want to make sure that everything as promised is available. Read reviews. If the building has already been occupied for a while, read the reviews of the tenants who have lived there and find out what they think of it. Now, like I had said earlier in the video, look for patterns in the reviews. If there's always the same thing over and over again, elevators broken down, for instance, and I know that that happens a lot in these new buildings, or parking is terrible, parking garage isn't secure, too many break-ins, things like that. You want to look for things like that. Again, read your lease thoroughly. Don't just skim it. Know what the contents of your lease is. Double check the pricing on everything and find out what you'll be charged for upon move out of the building, because this is also going to be included in your lease. If your lease is vague, I would ask for clarification. If you're not sure what you're reading, hire a real estate attorney to look over your documents for you. Understand all your fees and your deposits. Find out what you have to pay up front. Find out what's refundable and what is not. Find out what you're responsible for, what utilities you have to pay for, what additional rents you have to pay for. Do you have to pay monthly for a parking space? Do you have to pay monthly for pet rent? Are there pet deposits? Are there cleaning deposits? Are there security deposits? Find all of this out up front before you move in. Also consider older properties. I would look around at some of these older buildings. Some of them are built wonderfully, and they're just not getting the credit where credit is due. Older properties might be a little less expensive to move into, but you're going to end up with things like mature landscaping, extra parking. Modern buildings tend to have less parking than the older buildings. There are some really crappy older buildings. I do remember in the 90s that a lot of apartment buildings were just kind of slapped together, so be aware of that. However, you might be able to get yourself a good deal in a building that's 20 years old. Check it out. Luxury apartments can definitely work for a lot of people. Like I said, I love living in these places. I live in one right now. I've lived in multiple luxury apartment buildings and I do love it. You just got to do your homework. Make sure you know what you're getting into before you get into it. Something I've seen a few times is when people have lived in a house with a backyard, they're caught off guard by needing to walk their dog all the time. Even if there's a dog park as one of the amenities, you do have to walk your dog multiple times a day. And maybe that dog is not completely comfortable walking up and down hallways with stranger dogs. These are just things that people don't think about until they move into these apartments and then realize, my dog kind of hates it here. Think about these things first. If you have any experiences of moving from a house into an apartment building, leave it in the comments section below. We would love to hear about what you encountered and any warnings you might have for people who are thinking about moving. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Jen, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.